The village square is crowded with villagers. Whispers fill the air, and the atmosphere is electric as everyone awaits the return of Kofi, the young soldier. As he steps off the truck and into the dusty village road, his tall, broad frame catches the light. His uniform shines under the sun, but his eyes are distant, haunted by the horrors of war. The women in the village stop whatever they are doing, watching him in awe. Whispers are spreading that he's come back a hero. Look at him. He's barely aged a day. But did you hear? They say he killed a whole platoon of rebels. A real hero. Continued the rumors and whispers. Kofi walks toward the village square, raising his hand to greet the crowd. He pauses, noticing a young woman watching him intently, Afia, who seems lost in thought. Kofi, to the crowd, smiling. I'm home. I've missed this place more than words can say. The villagers cheer, but Afia's gaze lingers on him, dark and conflicted. Kofi smiles at her, but she turns her head sharply. Kofi enters his family's hut. His mother greets him with tears, embracing him warmly. But there's something different in Kofi's demeanor, a heavy silence. MMA, sobbing. My son, you're back. I prayed every day for your safe return. Kofi, forcing a smile. I'm here, Mama. Safe and sound. MMA holds him tight, but her eyes linger on his face. She senses that something is off. Akojua, his younger sister, teasing. So, the war hero finally returns. Huh? What's all this talk about you being invincible? Kofi, staring off into the distance. Not invincible, just surviving. The words hang heavy in the air. MMA looks at Akojua, signaling her to stop, but Akojua doesn't notice. She playfully nudges Kofi. Akojua, you should find a nice village girl. Settle down. Kofi's gaze darkens for a moment, a flicker of past memories flashing in his eyes. Kofi, maybe. The sun sets, and several young women gather at the village well to fetch water. As they walk, they gossip about Kofi's return. A young woman said, "Did you see Kofi? He's even more handsome than before." Another added, "I heard he's a big shot now. Killed a whole platoon. And those scars, they only make him more mysterious. They say he's been with women from the capital. Experienced." Laughing, came another. The group giggles, clearly enamored by Kofi's rugged charm. Suddenly out of the blue, quietly, almost nervously, "He's back now, though? Do you think he'll remember us?" Among them is Afia, who is distant and uneasy. She looks toward Kofi's home, her face tense. Later that evening, Kofi sits by the river. The sun is setting, casting an orange glow over the water. He hears footsteps and turns to see Afia approaching. She stops a few feet away, hesitant. Kofi, smiling softly. "Afia, I didn't expect to see you here." Afia, quietly avoiding his gaze. "I didn't think you'd remember me." Kofi stands, walking toward her slowly, his gaze intent. "How could I forget? You were always there when I needed someone. You're the first person I wanted to see when I came back." Afia's face tightens, conflicted. She wants to speak, but something holds her back. Afia, whispering, "You were never supposed to come back. You don't belong here anymore." Kofi pauses, taken aback by her coldness. A tense silence follows. The next day, MMA receives a visit from Mama ESI, who is troubling news. MMA's face changes when Mama ESI speaks. "Mama ESI, MMA, we need to talk." MMA, nervously. "What is it, ESI? You look worried." Mama ESI, hesitant, lowering her voice. "Afia is pregnant." MMA's heart drops as she hears the news. Her eyes widen in disbelief. MMA, shocked. "Afia? But how? She's so young, and Kofi has been around her too much lately." Mama ESI, she claims it's Kofi's child. MMA covers her face with her hands, devastated. "MMA, I knew this would happen. He has no control." The village square is filled with whispers as the news spreads. Afia's pregnancy is the talk of the day. "I told you, it's Kofi. He's been spending time with so many girls. What kind of man returns from war and does this? He's not the hero we thought he was." As the gossip grows louder, some women eye Afia with sympathy, while others cast judgmental looks. Jumping in, she's not the only one. "I heard there are more girls who have his child," added another whisperer. "Oh my God, how many?" Another asked, glancing around, lowering her voice. "At least 3, maybe more." The revelation causes a ripple of fear. Afia tries to make her way through the crowd, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Later that evening, Kofi seeks out Afia by the river. She is sitting alone, looking at the water. "Kofi, Afia, we need to talk." Afia, without looking at him. I have nothing to say to you, Kofi. Kofi sits next to her, his expression serious. I know you're upset. I didn't want any of this to happen, but we can figure this out. Almost crying. What do you mean? You've already made things worse. You've hurt so many people. Why did you do it? Kofi reaches out to touch her shoulder, but she pulls away, standing up abruptly. Afia, yelling, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for you to come back and ruin everything. She runs off into the night, leaving Kofi standing there, conflicted and ashamed. The mood in the village darkens as more young women start to come forward, each accusing Kofi of being the father of their child. The elders call a meeting in the village square, and the atmosphere is tense. Kofi must be held accountable. We cannot allow this behavior to continue, stated an elder. This is not the way of our village. He has broken our traditions. As the elders speak, the young girls, now visibly pregnant, gather in the corner. Some of them exchange glances nervously, afraid of being exposed. A random young lady to another girl, whispering, I can't hide this anymore. He's the father. Whispering back, we have to stop him. But how? The pressure is mounting. Kofi has no way out, and the village's anger is palpable. Kofi stands in front of the villagers who have gathered to confront him. His guilt is written all over his face, but he tries to maintain a tough exterior. Kofi defensively, I didn't mean for things to go this way. I was just trying to feel something, anything, after everything I saw in the war. Angrily, someone shouted, Feel something? You've destroyed lives? Kofi, how many girls have you hurt? How many more will come forward? Kofi is silent, staring down at the ground, realizing the gravity of his actions. Kofi softly, I don't know what I've done. I never meant for any of this to happen. The elders gather once more to decide Kofi's fate. They are not swayed by his apologies. The atmosphere is heavy with judgment. An elder with authority. Kofi, you have broken the trust of this village. You will leave, and you will not return until you have proven yourself worthy of forgiveness. Kofi defeated. I understand. I will leave. Kofi walks away from the village square, his head lowered in shame. He passes familiar faces, now full of judgment and anger. The young girls who accused him stare at him with contempt, while the elders whisper amongst themselves. As he walks past the huts, an eerie silence falls over the village, and the wind picks up, rustling the trees. MMA, from a distance, quietly to Akojua. Is this the son I raised? The one I prayed for? To bring honor back to our village? Akojua, watching Kofi leave. He's gone, Mama. He's gone. MMA watches Kofi's back as he disappears into the distance, her heart heavy with the pain of a mother's disappointment. Weeks later, the situation only worsens. The young girls who had come forward continue to suffer in silence, their families now ostracizing them. One by one, they seek out Kofi's family, determined to confront him and demand accountability. At the village square, Afia steps forward, her face twisted with anguish. Behind her, other young girls step out of the shadows, each of them now with visible signs of pregnancy. Afia, shouting to the heavens, Where is he now? Who will stand for us? The hero who came back to destroy us. Where is he? The others nod, some even crying. The men of the village, including the elders, stand helplessly by. The sense of betrayal and loss in their eyes is palpable. Elder, gripped by guilt. We were too lenient. We thought the war had changed him, made him stronger, but instead it brought out the worst in him. We have failed. Kofi, now living in isolation on the outskirts of the village, struggles with his own demons. He spends his days in the small shack he has built, drinking heavily and reflecting on his mistakes. He stares at an old, tattered photo of his younger self and his family. Kofi muttering to himself, I didn't want to destroy anyone. I just wanted to forget the things I saw, the things I did. Suddenly, a knock on the door interrupts his thoughts. He stands up slowly, confused. When he opens the door, he's greeted by a familiar face, Afia, with a sorrowful expression. Afia, quietly, Kofi, we need to talk. Kofi steps aside and allows her to enter. They sit in silence for a moment. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You don't know what the war did to me. Afia, cutting him off. Don't talk about the war. Don't use it as an excuse for your actions. You hurt me, Kofi. You hurt all of us. Kofi's face softens, a tear slipping down his cheek. Kofi softly, I'm sorry, Afia. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need to make things right. I don't know how, but I'll do anything. The village elders gather in the square again, this time with a new sense of urgency. The women, once passive, have now come together to demand justice for the wrongs done to them. They chant, their voices full of anger and frustration. A mother crying out, "We want justice. We want to hold him accountable for what he's done to us." Furious, he cannot hide forever. We must make him pay. The men, including Kofi's father, stand together, but their voices tremble with uncertainty. Kofi's father, speaking with authority. We need to hear him out. He's our son, after all. We cannot rush to judgment without knowing what he has to say for himself. The crowd's anger swells, and they begin shouting in unison, drowning out Kofi's father's words. Village elders firmly, we will not allow this to continue. Kofi must return to face us and make amends, or else. The elders exchange uneasy glances. The tension in the air is thick as the villagers prepare for Kofi's return, but Kofi remains isolated, refusing to come forward. Afia, feeling the pressure of being the voice of the voiceless, visits Elder Duma in his hut. She walks in quietly, her footsteps soft and hesitant. Afia nervously, Elder Duma, I don't know what to do. The village is falling apart. What if we can't find a way to make things right? Elder Duma gently, the path of healing is always difficult, but sometimes the greatest healing comes from facing the truth. You've been strong, Afia, but you cannot carry this burden alone. Afia, tearfully, I don't want him to leave, Elder. I want him to take responsibility. I want him to apologize for what he did to all of us. But he's not even here. He's hiding. Elder Duma, he's not hiding from you, Afia. He's hiding from himself. And that is the hardest battle for him to face. Kofi, unable to stay away from the village any longer, returns with a heavy heart. The villagers have gathered at the square, waiting for him. He walks slowly toward them, his face a mask of shame. Kofi shouting to the crowd, I've made a terrible mistake, and I can't undo it. But I want to try. I've hurt all of you, and I've hurt the women I swore to protect. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I will make things right if it's the last thing I do. The villagers watch him, their faces unreadable. Afia steps forward, her hand trembling. Afia softly, what are you going to do? Kofi, how can we ever trust you again? Kofi drops to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I don't have an answer, but I will do anything it takes. I will leave the village if it means you can find peace. Just please let me try. The villagers murmur among themselves, some hesitant, others moved by his sincerity. Kofi leaves the village square, determined to make amends. He spends the following days working hard to fix what he has broken. He approaches each family, apologizing, offering what little he has in hopes of making up for his past mistakes. The young girls who were affected by Kofi's actions slowly begin to forgive him, though the healing process is long and painful. Some of the villagers start to see the man he once was, the man they used to admire before the war. After weeks of hard work and self-reflection, Kofi returns to the village square for one last gathering. The villagers, though still skeptical, agree to listen to him one final time. I don't expect forgiveness, but I ask for a chance to prove that I am more than the man I was. I will dedicate myself to this village. I will give back to every one of you, no matter how long it takes. The crowd is silent. Slowly, one by one, the villagers begin to nod, some stepping forward to offer their forgiveness. Afia with a soft voice, I don't know if I can forget, but I believe you're trying. I think that's a start. Months later, Kofi has worked tirelessly to rebuild his life and the relationships he shattered. The village has begun to heal, and though it will never be the same, there's hope. Kofi stands at the village's center, now a man of purpose, ready to face whatever comes next. Afia approaches him one last time, her expression much softer now. She places her hand on his shoulder, offering a quiet, understanding smile. Asterisk, Afia is smiling faintly. You've come a long way, Kofi. Keep going. Kofi looks up at her, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Kofi gratefully. I will. The village begins to thrive again, with families reconnecting and the cycle of hurt slowly being broken. Though the scars remain, the healing has begun. Kofi stands by the river, reflecting on his journey. Sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what you've had all along. The road to redemption is long, but I'll walk it one step at a time. The sun begins to set over the village, casting a warm light over the peaceful scene. The end.